This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
And took it! What a goal! It's absolutely world class from Marcus Tunde!
Wrestling against Jones. Get in!
A terrific goal! Is there time for a winner? Is there? Josh Witness!
Hello. Do you know what? I probably started talking then before my mic unmuted. I'll go again. Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday week. Saturday was the first day our new manager, Danny Röhl, I think I got that right, took his place in the dugout in charge of Sheffield Wednesday. Ultimately, our first game ended in defeat, but did we see any improvement as to what has happened in the previous 11 games? Was there plenty of positives? Was it a penalty? How long do we stick in this tenure, and how long do we give it? Join us tonight with Stevie, Charlie, and Simon to make sense of it all. Stevie, how was your weekend? All right, pal, yeah.
Yeah, it was great, mate. I had a wonderful weekend down in the Big Smoke. Didn't end up spending too much money whatsoever. Had a wonderful evening out with my daughter, but yeah.
Also went to the ladies' football, right? To see the Chelsea women.
Yeah, I did. It's half term, and I got the tickets. I think I mentioned last week. Got the tickets last week to get down to Watford. So I thought I'd make a weekend of it. As it happens, my wife generally manages to sort out cheap hotels, which is another story. So we made a point of staying over for the night and got to go down to Kings Meadow and see Chelsea play Brighton, which was, I'll tell you what, was a really good experience.
Yeah,
it was a highlight of the weekend.
I'm not surprised. So with me as well, I've got Simon and Charlie. Simon, how was your weekend? All right, pal?
No, it was really good, really good. It's just me and Joanne this weekend because my son has gone away on holiday with his girlfriend's family. So I left Joanne by herself and went to Watford on Saturday. That was all good.
made a proper weekend of it. What about you, Charlie? How was your weekend?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I had the last night of our show that was on at the library.
Yeah, you've been treading the boards of late, haven't you? I mean, is it the last show tonight we're recording this, or I've already missed it? Is it too late for me to advertise it for you now?
Far too late, yeah. Early for the next one, but yeah, I finished on Saturday. So
tell us all about it. What you've been doing, who you've been playing, what you've been doing.
So we've just done a version of A Christmas Carol where it was all done by 5 of us. One of my parts was Ghost of Christmas Present, but like a Cockney tart version of it. So that was great. Used all my many talents of accents. I had to do the voice, many voices, singing, dancing, wigs, everything I'm terrible at. So yeah, stunning. Really well for me.
It sounds like the way I do this show, because I don't know if you know, listeners, I record this through the day on a Sunday and I play all 4 characters. It's just really good. Really good prosthetics, but when I play Stevie, it'll raise a few eyebrows. That's why I've not told anybody before. You know what I mean?
I'm really pushing your range. Doing me is a real range pusher, isn't it?
It's a bit like Robert Downey Jr.
Exactly like that. Exactly like that. So I tell you what, then, Simon, you went down the game. Tell us about it. Tell us about your weekend. Let's get into the game itself as well.
I went down with Ash. We all piled in his car. Went down. Second time to Watford. Last time was when Atty scored last minute, and we stopped them winning the league. Bournemouth did. Obviously, Danny's first game, so we wanted to see. He'd been in charge 4 days. We just wanted to see how it would pan out. And you know what? Despite the result, I was happy.
Yeah,
I think I was happy. Yeah. I think saw Steve down there. We saw him before the game in the Spoons, and then he was just literally sat to one side of us. And I think Steve is in the same thoughts as well. That yes, I think we might be on to a winner, but obviously one swallow doesn't make a summer.
Not just yet. Not just yet. Now, Charlie, I assume you were probably rehearsing at this point, weren't you? When the game was on, I'm going to stitch you up here now, aren't I?
Well, I caught snatches of it. I must admit, I got it on in my pocket. But yeah, I totally agree. I think the bits I saw, I think 3 points flattered them a little bit. Same old story into it. Like their first shot on target went in, and it was poor from us in that instance. But it'd be wrong to say that there wasn't huge improvements. And I think I saw somebody say on Twitter like these are the same. Some of these are the same players that we've just seen under the previous manager, and every single one of them, I would say, well, all but one, but certainly all of the new ones that are coming that played were like different players under this management. Obviously, it's early days, but yeah, definitely much better.
It's interesting you mentioned that, actually. So I've got the lineup ready to go here. So we had Dawson in goal, and then we have Valentin Iorfa, Diaby for Maywell, Masaba, Hendrick, Bannon, Buckley, Patterson, Windass. Now, given the the vitriol that it's Hendrick's been getting online, isn't it? I was surprised to see him in there. Another start for Dawson. That's 2 on the bounce, and Paul Valentin as well getting in. Now, Stevie, did you see an improvement on the new faces that we've got there? I mean, Charlie points out there that a few of them were like new signings, like we say, when someone's been injured for ages. I mean, did you see that when on the field?
I think it's difficult. It is a really difficult one because the ones that have played today, the ones that played on Saturday, the ones that were there, have all shown at various points something. Valentin showed something. I think it was in the League Cup, I believe, against Mansfield. He looked like a player. And I know that was against a lower league opposition, but they've acquitted himself relatively well and nobody else did. Diaby is flattered to deceive at times. I thought he played quite well against Leeds, but there have been other times where he's played poorly. Masaba is something of an enigma to me in the sense that he seems to have something about him, and I know that Blair, when he's on, will rave about him. He's not yet convinced me. I think the one of the ones that were there, and it's a little bit perverse saying it, out of the ones, and I'm just looking now, there's 4 or 5 of them that have played on Saturday. I think the one that's come out with most credit is probably Hendrick, just for the reason that you said. He was the one that, excuse me, 2 weeks ago could get in the bin. And the Newcastle fans have been saying he's not a player, he's poor, he's bringing nothing to it, and I've not seen anything to convince me that he should be getting a start of a Volks or Byers necessarily. But obviously the new regime have come in and decided to put him in there, and I think of the players that we're talking about here in terms of the new guard or the new regime, if you like. Of those new starters that played on Saturday, I think he's the one didn't stand out in terms of his performance, but the one that offended less or had offended more previously has come out on Saturday and done a little bit better than he had previously, whereas the other ones have at various points shown me something previously.
I mean, Hendrick's interesting, isn't he, Simon? Because bear in mind as well, like, this is a player that Newcastle signed to play Premier League football. So someone has identified that there's a player in there, right? And maybe this new, like Steve puts it, this new regime might get a bit of a tune out of what we expected him to be.
He couldn't get any worse than he'd already had been previously. So, mate, I would have preferred to see Byers in there. Everybody knows I'm a Byers fanboy anyway.
Even with that moustache?
Even with the moustache. He was better than he has been. He still wasn't brilliant. And I would have preferred to see Byers in there, and we really did. Obviously, he came in, I think, Byers, last 10 minutes, Steve? Was it last 10 minutes when he came on, Byers? And then, obviously, by which point we're 1-0 down, and there wasn't a great deal more anybody else could do. But I would still pick Byers over him. He isn't better than Byers. He had a bit of a better game than what he played before, but what's that comparing it against? It was okay. Sorry. It was okay.
Fair enough. Now, Charlie, are you like me? When these, because the numbers don't match up anymore like they did when I was a kid. Do you look at these team sheets when they get released and go, who's playing where? I just see a list of names now. It all just blurs into me, and I can't work that out. I can't
Absolutely.
work that out.
I think pretty much, particularly from with Zisco as well, like, you know, where it was always so round and about. I find myself scrutinizing it more than I think I normally would, like, particularly because, let's be honest, this entire season we've not really seen any consistent starting 11. Like we've not got, oh yeah, that's the winning team, so you know where you're going to be week in, week out. So yeah, it was I suppose while we may not have a lot of time on our side, like at a certain point it's gonna, you know, we are gonna be running out of time. We do still need to recognize that new gaffer's come in. He needs to find out who his, you know, golden boys are, and fair enough. I was 50% surprised to see it, I would say, the lineup as well. I was like, it was not kind of the classic OG that we saw when Thompson's 11 went out the other week, but at the same time, there was a few faces in there that I was a bit like, really? Like, again, Hendrick and Overbyes, I was like, but, you know, we don't see them at training, and the only way that he's going to say what they can do is by getting them out there. So, yeah.
It makes you wonder what Volts was doing in training to not get picked. I mean, he was one of our better players last season. He must be absolutely George besting it in. Now,
he's just backflipping in the wings, I think. He's just practicing his gymnastics.
Well, Stevie, there was one omission there that kind of surprised me a little bit, and it was for Maywell coming in at left back, because I feel, looking at that, I feel like it was a bit of a 4-4-2. I don't know if you guys disagree. You know, you two were there. You could probably see it, but I felt it was a 4-4-2 from what I could see. But for Maywell at left back over Reece James, I mean, come on now. Would Reece James have done better? Where's Marvin Johnson? What is happening?
It's that whole benchitis, as Charlie's christened it, isn't it? It doesn't matter if Reece James goes in and he doesn't put in a performance. You know, we're arguing the other side, aren't we? We're talking about Maywell should have played in that position. Is Maywell natural left back? No. Is Reece James the natural answer to the left back position at this level? I'd have to say maybe not. And that's the problem. We're arguing for people to go in to play where we've not seen anything of them to sort of say, well, yeah, he should be playing left back. Reece James should be playing. But we're only saying that because Maywell was potentially, jumping forwards a little bit, potentially questionable over his involvement with the goal that we conceded. I thought Maywell played all right, to be honest with you. He was hung out to dry a little bit by the players around him, and he didn't. What didn't help for Maywell on Saturday was the fact that we got Bambo, and that wasn't a criticism of Bambo because he was more on than off on Saturday, if that makes sense, because he's had some off days. He didn't offend me necessarily on Saturday, although there were a couple of things that he did where I thought, that's a bit shit. But he was definitely exposed by Buckley playing in front of him, more so in the second half, because I think Buckley's legs went, and there were times where, whilst for Maywell looked awkward in the first half, he managed to have his physicality, his strength, his size meant that he could regroup and come back, and we defended quite well in the first half. It was just, you got to a sort of the 65, 70 minute point and we started to look tired, and the players that looked more tired were, for Maywell did look tired, to be honest with you, but Buckley in front of him hung him out to dry, and so that naturally leads to that clamour of Reece James should have played. There's nothing to say that Reece James would have been any better, in my opinion.
Steve, did you find, I felt that Buckley played too central in the first half? So Fenwu was doing two roles. He was virtually playing left back and then left midfield, because there were many times where he was up the park trying to put a ball in, and Buckley was nowhere to be seen. There was a huge, vast space on the left-hand side. He was having to cover Tom Ince as well, wasn't he, on that side? And Buckley was giving him very little cover to help him out.
I agree with you to an extent. But this goes back to Dan's point of it being, was it a 4-4-2? And if it was a 4-4-2, forgive me, I don't know if I know enough about Buckley. And every time I say Buckley, I want to say Jeff Buckley, not John Buckley. But
I know about that.
Yeah. I don't know if he's a central midfielder being deployed on the left-hand side, and that's why he naturally drifted in. I don't know what his experience of playing out wide left was. And I wonder if and I don't have the answers. I don't know. Nobody will. As the manager set up to say, we're going to play 4-4-2, and you are the person best suited to play on the left, but naturally you drift in. I think I mentioned it on the chat Saturday night, and I've posted something about the fact that I'd seen enough on the sideline of the manager to know that he wasn't happy. And every time things were happening in front of him on the dugout, he was calling for players to come across, and he was gesticulating with his arms, and he's a very animated person, isn't he? And if you look back on the highlights, which I have done very briefly, Ishmael in their dugout is literally standing, whereas Danny Röhl is arms all over the place, calling people over. Yeah. He wasn't happy with what he saw on Saturday, and we may very well get to that later on. But I take your point. I thought Firmino was like very exposed by Buckley's tendency to drift in, but I don't know if that was an instruction, a style of play, an ethos that we were trying to sort of impart in terms of our strategy. But I was all right with the way that we played on Saturday, largely because it was a definite improvement on the previous 11-12 games.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, let's get into it, because I'm going to put you all on the spot here now, just by one simple question. I'll come to you first, Simon. That were a penalty, wasn't it? It weren't.
Oh, man, when we was right in front of us, and we all went penalty. When he went down, it was penalty. Obviously, watching it back, hindsight, watching it back, I've seen them given, I've seen them not given. It wasn't a penalty, But the thing was, prior to that, I think it was, who was it now? I think it was Bannon. Got taken out, proper 2-footer challenge, taken out about 10, 15 minutes before. Referee missed it, and the same linesman missed it as well. And then the linesman overturned the penalty. So you're thinking, and there was no foul given on the 2-footer challenge on Bannon. And you just thought to yourself, how many times, right, guys, how many times have we seen a penalty overturned by a referee? How many times? It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. If it had been on the screen, it would have done. No, it wasn't a penalty. But I've seen many given that weren't penalties in the past as well. You get your rub of your green. We didn't get the rub of the green. Fuck it, we lost, didn't we? So,
Charlie, what about you? What do you think on the whole penalty thing? Because Simon's brought a valid point up there, because I actually can't remember the last time I saw one be overturned that wasn't VAR.
It haunts back to was it Gregory, was it Byers had that lovely goal at Hillsborough that then he had another look at on our our VAR on the big screen.
It was Plymouth, wasn't it? Was it
Plymouth?
And
Ipswich. I can't remember.
No, it was Plymouth. I'm sure it was Plymouth. It was Plymouth. Yeah,
it was we had a lovely goal chalked off for, and it doesn't happen outside of the Premiership other than at Sheffield Wednesday. So I think for me, it was like, I must admit, when I first saw it, I was like, yeah, it's a penalty. It's a desperate challenge that he's put in. And then you look back and you go, no, it probably wasn't. But the thing is if the ref's instinct was to give it, it should have stood. And for me, it wasn't just so much the linesman coming in and giving his 2 penneth, because that actually came a good couple of minutes after all the players had crowded around and bloody whined on about it. And I thought, actually, they've took the piss. He should have just been like, no, I said it's a penalty, shut your face, get out my way, put the ball down and take it. He let that go on long enough for people to start going, and then overturn it. And that, for me, it totally changed. It could have totally changed the game. Obviously, I'd have been fuming if it went against us. Of course I would, but they didn't.
And that is the rule, right?
No, the rule. Please punish us with the rule book. We're very, Sheffield Wednesday famously are always bending the rules to our own benefit. So,
and we constantly get away with all that rule bending we do.
Not a day goes by where we don't
bending rules.
Scoundrels. You little blue and white scamps, go on with yourselves. No, he should have. He gave it. It should have stood. And who knows where we'd have been now? But hey ho.
Well, we'd have had another point on the board. We'd have got a quarter of our points on the board, and we'd have got 6 goals instead of 5. Stevie, are you quite pragmatic about it? I mean, Charlie's right. There was a lot of time between the, and I'm going to use the term referee's assistant, because his job is there to assist the referee, right? I mean, it's the time, isn't it, that kind of makes it a bitter pill to swallow, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the histrionics of Watford, because I think the unknown quantity, the thing we'll never know is, would the line referee's assistant, would the assistant referee have identified or gone to the referee and said, you've made a mistake, if Watford hadn't a crowd around him? And I think that's the only thing that sticks with me. I've no arguments. At the time, I thought it was a ridiculous decision. I'll say it. I was maybe 5 meters to the left of where Simon and Ash were. So my angle, although we were close, my angle was different, and I clearly saw him take the ball. Funnily enough, just anecdotally,
You've seen it.
Yeah. Anecdotally, I've gone back and listened to the I Follow commentary from John Pearson. I don't know if it was Rob O'Neill, and immediately one of them says, "I'm going to say it quietly because we're in front of Watford fans. That's not a penalty." And then in the time they said that, and then in the time it's taken for them to reverse it and go to the corner, by the time they've given the corner, they've both gone, "Oh my God, have they not given a penalty? It's an absolute ridiculous decision." If you go back and look at the highlights on the YouTube channel, that's literally what happens. So they changed their minds on the commentary itself, but he played the ball. It was a poor decision by the referee. If I was a neutral, would I actually be applauding him for having the stones to stand up and say, right, I've got it wrong? But it's that sticking point of he's given it, and what has happened for him to then go to the assistant referee for the assistant referee to overturn? Would he have gone there if nobody had said anything? Would the liner have turned around and gone, mate, you've made a mistake here? I don't think anybody will ever know that, and that's the frustration. And as Charlie had said, if it had gone the other way, we'd have been up in arms. So I've no qualms about that. I've no quarrel. Bottom line, we'd have fucking missed it anyway, wouldn't we?
I tell you what, yeah. The ironic thing is, Simon was talking about the last time we went to Watford. It's been a number of years since I went to Watford, and the irony is that I went to a game where Nicholas Alexanderson scored. We celebrated. They kicked off, and Mark Kennedy slotted one in the bottom corner within about 40 seconds of us scoring, which is a shorter amount of time than the Watford players were surrounding the referee. And it took you know what I mean? And it took the time for the lino to overturn the penalty decision. But, you know, it's a difficult line to tread in it, because I like the game being right, and it seems weird being aggrieved at the right decision being made, doesn't it? It's
I think the problem was, Dan, leading up to that, the referee made some really poor decisions. There'd been some really horrible niggly fouls. I think I don't know what his name is. Is it Porteous?
Porteous.
I don't know who. I can't remember who it was he tackled, but it was nasty. And he went up to the referee. Referee pulled his card out, and he was in his face. And the new rules, we were all saying it, Ash, Steve, the new rules are you're off.
Absolutely.
And it was proper in his face, and he just bottled it. It was
the halfway line, wasn't it? Where he's cleared him out on the halfway line, and Ash has come over at half time and said to me, he said, "Do you think that's a red?" And I was like, "No, it's not a red." He said, "I'm asking you if you think it's a red, not the one red card. Should that not be 2 yellows?"
Yeah, without a doubt. It was, because that's the rules now. The way he went, and they were like that all the way through. Horrible niggly tackles, some nasty ones. Like I said, that 2-footed one on Bannon that was just left. Referee just played on. And then leading up to that, obviously, that then made the turnover of the penalty really stick in the throat because of what had gone on previously. Yes, he was right, but it really stank at the time. Yeah, it hurts a lot.
I'll tell you what, actually. So what I did, I got ready another useful infographic. And there's one stat that stands out here. So I'll get it up for you now. And for the benefit of the people listening, possessions 59 in their favour to our 41. Shots 12 against 10. Shots on target 3 against 2. Corners 4 against 5. But fouls is the one that sticks out to me there. That they've done 15 to our 6. I mean, are we a little bit toothless, or were they just kicking the shite out of us, and that's how Ishmael's got them set up? But that, you know, before we get to the goal, that's an improvement there from Sheffield Wednesday's possession stats, Stevie, right? And 10 shots out of 41%, not the worst, is it? I'm not doing XG because that can get in the bin, but I like raw stats such as this, you know. But you know, there's a definite improvement there in terms of attacking goals, Stevie, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I know we're not doing XG, but at the time, it struck me the number of passes, the way that we played, on top of what we've seen there. We were popping the ball 1 touch, 2 touch. We were playing in triangles. We were keeping the ball. We were retaining it. And although they had a little bit more possession, we had large phases of the game where we were keeping the ball and they couldn't get anywhere near us. And I was standing there thinking, this is absolutely phenomenal. And I think everything that mate, compared to, I was there at West Brom, I was there at Sunderland, we'd seen Southampton absolutely pass us off the park. You know, the games where we've seen us literally roll over and, you know, they've tickled our bellies all season. Today, Saturday, we've stood up and fought a little bit, and we've got in people's faces, and there were phases of play where we looked like the dominant side. It's hard to say whether that's an improvement on our part or they just aren't very good. You know, you can't say that at this stage of the season because we don't know. But I was heartened by what we'd seen. The number of sort of shots, whether they be on target or off, the on target shots were comparable. The fact that we've gone double figures having attempts at goal is incredible in relative terms. People will turn their nose up and say I'm being stupid, but you think about the days where we've had 3 shots on at goal and none on target, which has happened this season. It's a massively marked improvement. I thought we played very well in the third, up until the final third penalty area, and then we kind of ran out of ideas a little bit. But you know, if that's what we've done on 4 days of training with Danny Röhl, there's a lot to be positive about.
Things can only get better. I saw a lot of online. Now, I'll tell you what, I might say something that might surprise you, but I'll let you guys talk about it first. So let's talk about the goal here, Simon. So, a couple of missed tackles, bit of a soft shot on the near. I mean, what did you feel about it?
He'd just come on. He'd been on 2 or 3 minutes. Steve, was it? He was on 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Asprilia. No relation to Festinio, apparently. I've looked it up today. Yeah. But Colombian. But what's really stood out for me was he only had one thing in his mind, and it was to have a shot at goal. He went up and down, left to right, to
quite ball greedy,
right.
Wasn't it? In terms of a goal.
To anybody, he was just trying to find a space to let a shot off. Nobody got a tackle in, and you can go on to Dawson's save. We should have really saved it. Really should have saved it. Why did nobody just get a foot in and tackle him? And that really that was more of what annoyed me was because prior to that, about 10 minutes before that, we were absolutely battering them. And then we sent to then sit back and let them come at us. We changed the sort of style of play we were playing. And we brought Malik Wilks on. He can get in the bin as far as I'm concerned. And if he wears those stupid little shin pads, I know Jack Grealish can get away with them because he's a footballer. Malik Wilks, his shins are higher up than those chuffing shin pads. I just know. Get them in the bin, including him.
He's old school. He's old school, is Simon. Everybody's got to have black boots on. They've got
shin pads, Velcro straps.
Ethan and I get Sports Direct. Every time he wants a new pair of boots, goes Sports Direct, and he's like that. Look at those ones, Dad. Nope. Look at those ones, Dad.
We're going to get you some Sondico Gary Linekers.
I'm a little bit better than that. But
with them bony teeth things that went, and you had the 4 things you'd drop in.
Yeah, you can replace them. Word at
like, it. Sock boots? What's all that about?
Luminous yellow.
He's actually, don't get me wrong, he has gone through that, and then all of a sudden he's gone, Dad, I just want to play in black boots. Black boots now. Black boots.
Has it come full circle now?
But he has grip socks now.
I'm sure somebody's made that up. I think that's like caffeine shampoo from Germany. I think someone just made it up and they've gone, tell you what these kids want, grip socks.
It's the prime version of socks. It's just prime and socks with rubber stuff underneath.
It's the stock version of influencer boxing.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
A man on the internet said you needed it. So
So everybody, one lad out of the 15 who he plays for turned up with grip socks. you'd go up now and everybody's got grip socks on. It's just the weirdest thing ever.
Absolute marketeer's dream, innit?
Yeah, what were we talking about? Anyway, I've forgotten. But
Yeah, I'm still recording. What we're doing. Anyway, Charlie, let's talk about this goal. I mean, what about yourself?
Yeah.
I mean, Simon there's quite critical of Dawson, and it's for Mayweather and Bannon who missed challenges. I mean, what did you
Yeah, I think we were the victim of tired legs a little bit, and I think that's always going to be a risk when you're playing. And not that I don't want to see us play high intensity football, don't get me wrong, but it really does then highlight your missed chances early on. If you're going to be playing like that and you know and going hell for leather for the first 45, 50, 60 minutes, you're going to be tired by 80 minutes. And I do think that is what it was. And it really was a momentary lapse in concentration, I think, from everyone, because like Simon says, we were all over him. Like I was very cautiously optimistic that we were at least going to take a point, if not, you know, scab a cheeky 3 points. But yeah, I think far be it from me to criticise Dawson, and you know, I know what a hero of the podcast he is, but he definitely could have done better. And I think for me, it's one thing them having tired legs. It's another thing him having tired eyes, because that goal was telegraphed for like 30 seconds. He was literally like, and we were like zombies staggering after him. He was like, bing, bing, bing,
could
bing,
have
bing.
written a telegram. Dearest Cameron, I'm about to take a shot on your goal. I hope you're well. I hope you're fine. Just get me a raven.
Like, he might as well have shouted 4 before he kicked it, because it's very obvious what he was going to do with it. And the Dawson was like, oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, I'm a goalkeeper. Oh, fuck, I've missed it. So, yeah, that it was, you know, it's not exclusively his fault, but he could have done better. But, yeah, I think that's it. I think it's very much going to be a question of us burying a couple of goals early on if we're going to be playing that kind of high-intensity football. It suited us. You could definitely see the improvement there. You could definitely see that it would lead to goals, points, but you know, it's typical Wednesday if we're, you know, we pay for our errors later on, and I think that's exactly what happened, unfortunately.
It's interesting you said typical Wednesday there, because when I did the Hello from the Other Side edition last night, the Plymouth geezer went, all right, we've got this saying that goes typical Plymouth. And I'm like, well, hang on a minute. That's ours, that, Jeff. I mean, you know, that's our thing. Who are you, Derby County? You'll be stealing our songs next. Now, hey, Stevie, before I come to you, can I just shock you? I thought that, yes, he telegraphed it that he was going to shoot, but I thought that he miskicked it and he was going for the other post. And I think Cameron thought he was going to go for the other post, and he spanned it and it slid in the inside of him. And bear in mind, it's his weak side. I understand that. Could he have done? Would he be disappointed watching it back? Probably. But I feel like the ball shouldn't have got through to start with. I don't think Cameron absolutely fluffed his lines. He did well to get to the side he did. I mean, what I know you probably don't agree, because you're always slagging off Cameron Dawson, you lot.
He's not negative reviewing me on the podcast.
So go on. I mean, tell us how you saw it, because I think Charlie's says a lot of sense there. I mean, bear in mind we've been going at it We've been going at it hell for leather. I nearly said something else then. We've been going at it hell for leather, and then you know, a geezer's come on. He's been on a couple of minutes and he's gone absolutely tearing at it. 3 cockerels to the country file, and we can't keep up, right?
Hang on. Hello, is that HR, podcast HR? Yeah.
Is that podcast
HR? Oh, right. Breathe. I think everything that Charlie said is basically where I am with it. I said something in our private chat about how I didn't think necessarily Bannon was to blame for the goal, and Ash disagreed with me. He said Bannon.
Well, that's shocking information. Let me call the Daily Echo. Is that the Sheffield Star? Ash disagreed with Steve. What's that?
About Bannon as well. We've
got a new line here, lad.
It felt like it did. It felt like it felt like a soft goal to concede. It felt really unfortunate, especially after all the hard work. And it was a kick in the knackers. Absolutely, it was. But when you pull at it, could Firmino have done better? Of course he could. Should Bannon have done better? Maybe. I think the Bannon criticism based on what he did in that I actually ran it back 10, 15 seconds to see if I'd missed anything else before that, and I don't think I did. It just looked like tired bodies chucking themselves in front of balls or trying to play people inside. If I'm fatigued and I'm the left back, I'm trying to show people inside rather than get beat on the outside, and that seems to be what Vermeer's done to an extent. And then Bannon's gone in to try and, what he does, he did it 2 or 3 times on Saturday. He's gone in with those last-ditch heroic tackles where he'll dive at somebody from 6-7 feet out and manage to make contact with the ball. It's your under 10s.
To make contact with the ball, you crackhead. It looks great, but
no,
how many of them has he actually pulled off?
But this is there were 2-3 Saturday where he's dived in and he's done it, but then. That one there, he's chucked his body on the line, and the guy's just sent him for a hot dog, hasn't he? Is that the same?
For a bag of chips.
Yeah. And that's what's happened. And then the kids pulled it. I don't want to be overly critical of Dawson, but I would wonder: is he going to look back on that and go, "I'm disappointed"? Is if he didn't look like he was set right? Only Cameron Dawson knows that. I'm not a goalkeeper. I can't answer that question. I was disappointed in him not getting a hand to the ball, if I'm honest with you.
I think the striker's gone for the other way, and I think he's ballooned it and ended up.
I don't know. What we need to do, what you should have done, you should have queued it up so we could talk about it.
Yeah, that'd have been lovely, that wouldn't it? That'd have been a good idea. But what I do have, that's a lovely I have Danny Röhl's statements after the game. So what he's gone with, I had a feeling. I said to Mike, I'll not do the voice. I've not come up with one for Danny.
Please don't.
I've said to my coach, it'll end up sounding Dutch. There's something in the air tonight. We could take something today. We did everything on the pitch. We've been nasty against them, and it was very hard to beat us. We had a good opportunity to go in front with a penalty, but the ref took it back. Then maybe the match is different. If you're in front, the opponent has to take more risks, and we can speed up our game if we win the ball and go for counter-attacks. At the end, it was a good step forward, but without points, it's always disappointing. We trained hard this week. We saw a lot of good things, and we'll take the good things to the next match and go forward. I'm sure we will play like this. We will take more points in the future. That's a very rousing speech, isn't it? I'm a big fan of that. That's and to be fair, that's what we've all been saying, Simon, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. The guy's got a game plan. The guy knows what he's doing. I'll tell you one thing we had on Saturday was an identity which we've not had for 11 games beforehand. So like we were talking about the old system of numbering where we had 1 to 11 on the back of the shirts, and you came in and came out and you changed your shirt number, and you could pretty much predict where everybody was. It was like position bingo, wasn't it? Up until Thompson came in, and it was the square pegs in square holes, and you could see that, and everybody had a task to do. I thought Musaba and Windass were superb. It's in the first half and certainly the 10-15 minutes. People have been slating Windass for missing chances. I don't see that really. I thought the one chance which should have been put away was Hendrick's header. It was just a clear should have buried that, which was really annoying. I thought.
Can I just come in there, Simon? Just on the Windass point. Windass will be the answer for us if we're staying up this year. Windass is the answer because, and it's a tangent, and I know I'm not hosting, I'm not the boss, but I've got a point to sort of bring up, and it's around Marvin.
Let's go for it, because I am absolutely bereft. I mean, what some people will realise is that running a podcast about a football team, if they're doing really shit, it's really
There's
hard.
not a lot to talk about.
Really hard.
It's really hard.
Right.
It's like having a second job to find something to talk about. We're sat here going, well, I think the under-18s had an injury last week, and nobody really gives a shit, and I hope he's all right. But
it's ever since Charlie's come onto the podcast as well. You should have bought them, Charlie. There you go. Should have bought them.
I do think Windass is the answer because he's got something different and he's capable of playing up top. And I'm a massive. I know that Blair raves about Michael Smith. I don't get that, but I'm a huge fan for the qualities that Lee Gregory has, and I think that Gregors has got something about him. Having said that, take both of those guys out, and if you want somebody that's going to be something different as an option, I think he's got the pace, he's got the technique and the ability. If coached and put out on a pitch in the right way, I think Windass is that player that can be a little bit different for us. And I think when he gets fit and firing, bearing in mind he'd missed 4 weeks of playing, and then has gone in there and basically given us effectively 90 minutes. I know he got dragged on 88 minutes on Saturday. So he's done a full stint. My interesting talking point is the 25th man. And the reason that I mention that is that Johnson's come back into the fray with a view to potentially being that 25th man. And I just wonder if anybody's got any thoughts on the manager potentially going, look, we've got a greater need here than somebody to play out left. And if we can attack that free agent market and potentially get somebody in that's not assigned to anybody, that can come and be a different option up front. Does he know of somebody at sort of late 20s that might have been holding out for something that we could potentially get in on a short-term deal, or even till the end of the season with this new regime, which is another point that's maybe worth just giving 5 minutes towards. Why have we suddenly gone from not Darren Moore and his regime to now getting the former Germany assistant manager, a guy that we paid Compo for to come and be, who was a manager, to come be an assistant manager, and Chris Powell? What's happened there? And what's the thinking around that? So 2 points to think about. Is it worth maybe looking at a free agent over Marvin Johnson? And the second point, why the sudden change in strategy?
Charlie?
I mean, yeah, it's. I mean, you're trying to get inside Chancery's heads, like, how could you possibly, and why would you want to?
It's easy to get inside Chancery's head, Charlie. You get 5 kittens, stick them in a sack, and just poke it with your stick. And then open the sack and then go, oh, now I'm inside Chancery's head. Fucking hell, what's going on here?
It's just statements and screaming cats is all that he's got in there.
That's all it is.
But for someone that absolutely said...
What was you describe Disco's formation as? Just vibes.
Just vibes. Just crazy vibes.
I'd have said he had like lots of mushrooms and Stella, to be honest.
Cat Stellas. Stella cat mushroom stew.
Cats rubbed in mushrooms, poured Stella over them, and then licked them.
Sorry, Stevie, what was the question again?
Marvin Johnson or another, I think it was, wasn't it?
But for somebody that absolutely swore blind that he was putting no extra money into this club and bollocks to you all, and you want to see how Mr. Burns, I can get out of Mr. Burns the crap out of this, he has then clearly must have put his hand in his pocket, unless he's offering cats as payment, or he's got somebody's cat locked up under like lock and key. Like there's no way that he hasn't reluctantly done some business there. So who knows where that would potentially lead. I think if you think about January, like any kind of sort of transfer market in January, for me, I worry about that because January sounds very far away. Like, I know it isn't.
It does.
But
is the loan market still open? That's a salient point. I think it is, isn't it? Can we not get a loan
where
in?
are we?
No.
Where are we now?
No, we can sign. And this is the question. The reason that I asked the question is because we could register Marvin Johnson. We could register Momo Diaby, for example, or we could register Kieran Brennan. Because he's been in the news today about potentially wanting to get out in January because he's 23. He's too old to be played as a junior. So the only way he can play is to be registered. With due respect to Kieran Brennan, he's a Wednesday player. Sorry, I don't think he's going to feature anytime soon, if at all. I don't believe Momo Diaby is going to be fit enough to play before January, based on little bits I've heard, and I'd heard at the time of the injury. Which leaves Marvin Johnson or somebody that could potentially come in and maybe, get fit in 3-4 weeks and add to our attacking prowess.
So what do you think, Charles?
I like Johnson. I do like Marvin Johnson. Is it Ben?
Imagine him not being a big sexy man. Imagine him
it's more as
having
well,
a face
for me.
like Des Walker, like a full-on bag of spanners. You know what I mean?
I mean, we've got this. There's a few players that look like a bag of spanners that I still like. I'll not say which ones in case they're listening in, but obviously, you can go quite far with your face like a bag of spanners. That's all right. But
I've been doing this show for 13 years.
Your face has been melted down 15 times.
Yeah. You should have seen me when this show was just an audio. You know what I mean? I look like a firing man into swords.
I don't know. I feel like it's the story for me hooks me in. I can't help it. It's that little lingering bit of nostalgia for last season, but also like the fact that he'd been shunned and he was training on his own with like sad, like Incredible Hulk music playing in the background. You know the song. I can't think what it is. At the top
in
of my head,
Abu Dhabi. It's not as like he was on the beach.
Peering through the glass. Oh, the lads all having a good time, and then it started raining, and like he'd not got a jacket, and then a car drove past, and a puddle went over him, and he was like, "Oh," and he got mud. Like,
poor old Marvin in Dubai. Poor lad. Yeah, it must be for him.
Like Dan Aykroyd in Trading Places.
With it raining in that fur coat.
In a Santa Christmas party.
Just back.
What about you, Sty? I mean, you know, Charlie's in team Jono. What about yourself?
I'd bring him in. What have we got? Options on the left-hand side. I think we need to bring in a left footer on the left-hand side to give us that attacking prowess. I would be looking at getting Cadamatri training in the first team if he isn't already. Let's have a look at the younger lads who we can play without having to register them. They can't be anything worse than what we've already had. I agree with Steve. Smith is not an option for this league. Rotherham got rid of him. Now, Rotherham palmed him onto us because they knew for a fact that he wasn't going to score a lot of goals in the Championship, and he's not. I like the bloke, don't get me wrong, but you know, he is somebody. I agree about Gregory. Gregory's got something. Oh God, I wish he was 10 years younger. You know, but then again, he wouldn't be playing for Wednesday if he was 10 years younger.
I think you're forgetting something, lads. I think you're forgetting something. I'd send Ashley Fletcher back to where he's come from. That'd free another spot up, get Jono in, and then get somebody else into. You know what I mean? You forget. I forgot we loaned Ashley Fletcher until somebody bought the new footy manager and went, "I've paid 35 quid to do this," and then sent him back and cancelled the loan. And I was like, "We've loaned him. That's amazing news. Yeah. Get him on the blower now."
That would be somebody a free agent, though, wouldn't it? If we sent him back, and can we send him back?
I'd want to know if we were able to do that, because if we're able to do that,
we managed to do it with Lewis Wing, didn't we? We managed to go, look, this loan's not working out. He's not getting the football that he thinks he should be getting.
That was the holding club, that Borough, wasn't it?
They pulled him back because we weren't playing him.
Yeah.
All right, so let's not play Ashley Fletcher anymore and let them pull him back and send him down a fucking Rochdale or somewhere.
Everybody wins.
Yeah, Watford. Oh yeah, let's have him back because he's really rubbish.
I think Derby County will snap your hand off for him the way they're going. You know, send him off, get Jono back. But we are quite flush on the left hand side. All right, you know, the quality might not be there as much as you'd like it to be. In terms of Maywo and Johnson and James and even Palmer to an extent and all the rest of it, but you know, he was one of our better players last season, and given the shite that we've signed, I'd like to see him back in and around the nonsense and from behind the shop window that we've stuck him in, singing "How much is that puppy in the window," waiting to get in, going, "Excuse me, can I come inside now, Mister Hall?" You know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine it. So yeah, I'd send him back, send him back. Get Johnson in and then free up another, because I assume you guys spoke about it while I was away, but I think Röhl's he applied for this job back in the summer, and I wish we gave it to him. Reason being is now he's been given, you know, a squad whose morale's on its ass, a load of signings that he didn't want or need. And now he's got to try and pick up the pieces in order to make a name for himself in English football in the top job. And I feel for him, because it's a big old job that he's got, and we'll get behind him. You know, there was a buzz, there was a vibe on Saturday, and I can't wait to see it against Rotherham on a local derby. And there'll be a point where he'll go, "Shit, look at this. This is mental." However, let's get one thing out the way first. We've got all that shitty way to go down to Plymouth. Stevie, how do you think that's going to go?
I think
great question, Stevie, by the way.
Yeah, cheers.
Big
Off the
fan
back
of you
of-
bringing content.
Off the back of the weekend, and a lot of people are sort of saying we wanted 7 points out of 9 before Watford, and now we need 4 points out of whatever, out of 6. I can't believe I've just said whatever, and I'm a teacher, by the way. I'm not yet there with it's a must-win game. I think the performances at this stage are equally important, if that makes sense. Obviously, we want to win the game and get something out of it. I think progression at this point is the priority in terms of how we play and how we set up against teams that have done well or are doing well. And I know that Plymouth are 21st at the moment, so they're down there, but they've won. I think they won 3 and lost 3 at home or something like that. So they
gave me some stats yesterday. They gave me some stats. So at home, they're brilliant. They're really good. They haven't won away on a 3:00 Saturday game in over a year. 3:00 on a Saturday, they just can't win away. However, at home, they're really good. So guess where we're going on Wednesday?
Away on a Wednesday. I genuinely, and I know I'm not sure if you're thinking, if you're asking me for a prediction, I think we could get something out of the game. I do. I think, I'm not saying we're going to go get 2-3 goals and put them to the sword, but I think another dogged, determined, battling performance like we saw on Saturday, and I think we'll see progression. I do. I'm not sure if we'll see the same lineup. I'm very interested to see what he does in terms of the personnel. I would imagine, I'm hoping that he's going to put Bernard back in at the back, although Diaby wasn't necessarily that offensive. You can lift it. Go on. Yeah, my man. Oh, it's gone.
I've still got Deschamps' flag up there, but I'm Team Germany right now. So, what about you, Simon? What are you saying?
I think we're going to go down there and like Steve. I agree with Steve. I think he obviously didn't see Dijon because Dijon was playing anyway, wasn't he? So he probably didn't even see him or towards the end of the week in regards to what he can do. Vasquez have been ill, so he'll probably see how Vasquez plays. He's got a few more days in. Obviously, Powell's come in. He came in towards the end of the week. The guy from the Netherlands came in towards the end of the week. I think they'll have more of an idea of the team they've got. I think with the players he's got, looking at his history from when he was at Leipzig, they took on a team that was struggling and turned them into a team that ended up playing in the Champions League. I'm not saying we're going to end up playing in the Champions League, but what I'm saying here, he'll take a sort of I think he's got the ability to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, and I think that there are people in that team who are far better than what we've seen this season. The signings, Valentin, Musaba. I think there are players in there that his team will be able to take on and produce a winning team. What we've got to do is we've got to beat Plymouth, because if you look at the league, if we beat them and Rotherham, 6 points, that puts us on 9 points. Obviously, we've got to look at QPR as well, how they're going to play. But then we're starting to knock on the door of getting out the bottom 3. And I had the luck of actually meeting our manager last night when I went out for a bite to eat, and his words were, "We need points." That's what he said to me.
Oh my God! What did you say to him, and were you pissed up?
I wasn't pissed up. I was driving. We were in Miller and Carter in town, and I was waiting. We'd eaten, and I was just waiting for Joanne, and he walked in with the other 2 guys, the Dutch guy and the German guy, and I just looked across, and he walked in. He saw me. I smiled, and he went, "Hi, how you doing?" And I went, "Hello. Have you settled in?" I was like that, very middle class. Oh, hello. Hello. Have you settled into this beautiful town that we live in?
I brought you a pie.
Yeah, and he walked over, and all I remember thinking was, he's got ripped jeans on. and then Joanne came from the toilet, and I went, and she's like, Joanne said, she walked up and he went, "Oh God, who's he talking to?" And I says, "Oh, Joe, this is our new manager at Sheffield Wednesday." And she went, "Oh, hello." He shook his hand and went, my son was talking about the other day. And he actually went, oh, what did you say? Well, I was looking at the photographs and all the players looked like they were smiling and they haven't looked like they've smiled in months. And he's going to do really well because he's making our players happy again. And he's smile on his face. And then when we left, Joanne went, God, he's really thin.
He is really thin, and he looks great in that sweater. I was eyeing up that sweater, and somebody else wrote on a picture of him and said, where do I get that jumper from? They sent him one, he bought it, and I was like, I could buy that, but I'm not thin enough for a jumper. I can't pull that off. Bear in mind,
Joanne's other half is 53 and slightly overweight. So
we'll get you one. Charlie, what about Plymouth? How are you feeling?
Yeah. I mean, I am optimistic. I mean, I think, like, you know, it's not very often I watch a match where we lose 1-0 and I still come away with positives and things to say. And I think, I like even more so now that we've just heard that lovely little story about him. You know, I like him. I think he's what my mum would say. He's not backwards in coming forwards. Like he says what he means, and he's not just trying to fluff stuff. And I can imagine.
Well, he's German. That's what they do.
Exactly. Like they're just, you know, he's to the point. And I think, you know, it's a dangerous thing to say as a Wednesday that things can't get any worse, but really he has come into what was literally the worst. Like, if you're going to lose every game, record-breaking worst. Things can only improve, and you know, even in a game that we didn't win, even in a game that we lost, the fact that you can see that progress leads to points for me. And I think, he knows what he needs to do, and if anyone's going to do it, I think it's going to be him. So I think we could get something out of it.
Jesus.
Why not?
So we're all looking at draw. Go on, Stevie.
I just wanted to sort of loop back to something that Si said about it being must win, and I think that's the mentality that we've got to be mindful of. Excuse me, at the moment, because people are looking at the gaps, and I understand that, and we all do it, and it's the right thing to do. And I just wanted to sort of raise a post that was put on by Pete Lohman today, and he went at it. He's done a deep dive in. People with finishing positions where they are at 24th, this number of points after 12 games, goals scored, etc. And we will have seen it. Anybody that watches our social or is on the Sheffield Wednesday socials at the minute will be aware of the fact that it's the worst season or the worst start to a season ever. He's put a lengthy post out that I replied to. I'm just going to read out his last post on that thread. Lower mid-table form from here on in, and Wednesday could be saved, defying the longest of odds yet again, and setting yet another record that would be positive this time. The table after 12 games isn't destiny after all. And then he's posted an image and put "here's hoping." So what he's basically saying is, if we achieve mid-table form over the duration of the season, it's still doable. I then said, half joking, it's doable then. And his reply to that was, I'd say so, not batshit crazy, impossible either in his opinion. He's then put there, and this is the reason I'm raising this, another 50 points would basically see us safe, we think. And that would be 14 wins, 8 draws and 12 defeats in our remaining fixtures. He said 4 of our 6 home games so far have been against the current top 6. We're yet to play anybody in the bottom 4. So if we look at that, we're talking about this weekend being must win, and you know where we are in the league at the moment. I think the best thing that we can do as a fan base to maintain our sanity, if you like, is stop looking at what other teams are doing and just worry about us a little bit. We will win or lose. You know, we'll win, lose or draw on Wednesday. We'll win, lose or draw over the next 2 games. Whatever happens, our fight now is our own fight, and we need to stop looking at Rotherham. We need to stop looking at Plymouth, QPR, Watford. We just need to worry about us and see where we are with 10 games to go. And I know that the age-old tradition going back to predecessors on this podcast, you don't look at the league before November, December time. It's now getting to November, December time. I think we need to give that maybe a little bit of a stay of execution to start looking at maybe February, March, and then worry about where we are then. It's going to go one or 2 ways. If we lose week in, week out, we're done by Christmas. We'll know that. But if we're in with a fighting chance because we pulled off a point here and we've got a win there and so on and so forth, and we're plugging away at our target of getting so many points, forget about everybody else. Let's just worry about us.
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, Steve, but I also think from a fan's point of view, we're quite pragmatic in regards to that. And I understand that. It's that fan base as a whole. And if we're mixing it amongst just at the moment, we're propping everybody up. But if we start mixing it amongst those that are sat around third from bottom, it gives fan base hope, doesn't it? It gives people hope. It gives that fact that those people like my son who have gone through more bad times than good times. And we've had 2 years of great times, really. Even though the season before last we messed up in the playoffs. To then sort of then say, right, we're amongst the Plymouths and the Stokes, amongst those. Yeah, concentrate on our winning, but also as well, there's that impetus that, hang on a minute, we're not now propping that league up, that we're amongst them, and there's every chance for us to stay up. I think that is a huge thing in regards to the fan base.
Yeah, it is. It is
motivation.
But what I'm saying is, and I agree with you, but what I'm saying is, let's get this must-win mentality out of our heads at the moment, because whilst we want to win, as long as if we win 15 on the bounce, it won't happen. If we won 15 on the bounce from January onwards and we stay up, fine. Do you know what I mean? We've got to see the end game. We've got to see the end goal. We'll get there or we won't. But I don't want to start catastrophizing this weekend if we don't get 4 points or 6 points.
Steve, are you telling us to temper our expectations?
No.
On what we call Toy Town, which is a shit nickname for anybody. I mean, bear in mind, 3 of us are from there.
Which 3? Sheffield Wednesday. I live there. I'm not from there.
All right.
Yeah, I live there. I'm not from there.
Yeah. All right.
That'd be you then, Dan.
Other way around. I'm from there. All right. Listen, I just want to say thanks a lot to you guys tonight. Really appreciate it. I'd like to say big shout out to the Sheffield Wednesday ladies team who are romping the top of the league as well. Fair play, girls. Top banana. And listen, I'm gonna end on a bit of a somber note. About 13 years ago, I got a phone call from a pretend lord on the internet who said, "Do I want to come and join a podcast?" And I was on this podcast with a pretend lord, a fireman, and a bloke who used to dress up as Maverick from Top Gun and go on Omegle and chat roulette and wind people up on there. And one of those guys, the fireman, I spoke to him every week doing the show, and I wanted to say this when Holly wasn't on because she'll get annoyed at me for stitching her up, and I'll probably upset her a little bit, But Steve Beastie, who used to be on this show, a number of years ago, who I only got to meet in the flesh around 2016 after doing this show for about 6 years, had become one of my good friends, and I get to see him, and I was fortunate enough to be around him when Sheffield Wednesday won at Wembley back in May. He's now ill. He's now not very well. He was diagnosed with throat cancer, and after being a fireman, you can imagine how that's come about. He now looks like he's going to be terminal, and I hope he's not in too much pain. And I wanted to just wish him as well as I could, and send my love to him and Holly, and that's all I really wanted to say. I'm just thinking about you, pal, and I hope you're all right. But in the meantime, let's hope that we get some points on the board this week. Stevie, my big love to you, and see you later.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
And